Live long and prosper. That's my message to beginning this video, or maybe we should just put Mr. Spock up there from Star Trek and have him live long and prosper. An old Vulcan saying that has everything to do with the subject of this particular video presentation. It's my own personal reflections on my discussion with Dr. T Colin Campbell from a while back. And right away, as I started contemplating doing this video, I thought of the Vulcan expression, live long and prosper. So we'll put Mr. Spock up there with live long and prosper. But there's a lot to get to, and I think it's been a while now since I had the privilege to discuss nutrition with Dr. T. Colin Campbell. And when I think back on it now, there's some insights and thoughts that I really want to share that often go overlooked, because when people talk to him and interview him, just like I did, you get into the biochemistry, you get into the nutrition research, you get into his history. But in that, sometimes a lot of context and a lot of really important, insightful stuff can be missed. So I just wanted to share with you some of the insights that I think are really, really important. And one of the other takeaways from my personal reflections on my conversation with Dr. Campbell is, if you're in your 40s or 50s, you're a member of what I call my Platinum Club. You've read my book, The Aging Proposition, or Physique After 50, or you're in your 40s, it's never too early to start to think about the quality of your life moving forward and extending your life, and to truly live until you die. That is a quote I want you to put in your head and remember. Live until you die. And I'm going to be talking about that more as I go along. So I'm just going to give you some background before I get into the insights about my conversation with Dr. Campbell. And initially, when we were arranging the interview, I had to smile to myself after our first few email exchanges. Dr. Campbell and I were emailing back and forth to try to set up a mutually convenient time to have the conversation for my podcast. And we had to set a date several weeks into the future, because Dr. Campbell had shared with me an email that he needed more time before he would be available to be interviewed, because he was putting the final touches on his new book that he wanted to finish first. And that made me smile, and as we talked about that, I even laughed to myself at the example he showed me just in that very single email. And I think it goes overlooked, because you see, here's Dr. Campbell, age 84 years old, and he's completing his latest book. Boom, shakalaka laka laka, bam! That example itself, as soon as I read that, just hit me right between the eyes. Most people at age 84 are long retired, and most people at that age are suffering a litany of health problems as well. And right away, when I read that, here he is finishing his book, right away I thought of my own parents. Yes, my father lived to be 87 years old, but his last several years were marked with frequent hospital trips and plenty of pain. Heart failure left my dad with open sores all over his legs and feet. It made it unbearable for him to walk. He was in pain for years. He would get one infection after another and have to go to the hospital. And it was just, not good to watch him become weaker and weaker and more debilitated beyond the pair. And my dad smoked for over 70 years. He never ate all that healthy, so he was the perfect example of most people consuming the SAD diet, the standard American diet. The meals my dad enjoyed the most were, like most people in the standard American diet, several shades of off beige and no bright colors. He had open heart bypass surgery in his 50s. He had a stent put in several years after that. And the last several years he was on handfuls of medication and nitro and everything else, and even in an adult diaper for his last few years. So he didn't get to live until you die, which I will get to what I mean by that. My mother, on the other hand, is actually younger than Dr. Campbell by 1 year. And yet here's my mother in a long-term care facility suffering with dementia and other ailments. And her list of medications reads like a scroll. And she isn't going to live until you die either, because she's not independent. She's not on her own. and she's certainly not writing books. So here is Dr. Campbell, older than my mother, healthy, productive, finishing yet another book, as if the China study and low-carb fraud and whole rethinking the science of nutrition and his over 300 peer-reviewed published papers weren't enough of a contribution for one lifetime. Here he is finishing his latest book. And not only that, he gets to experience the joy of doing it with 3 generations of family, telling me about how his grandson was helping out on the book as well. So he's, grandfather, father, son, pretty cool stuff. So, but his example got me thinking about lifestyle. And I see it all around me, and I thought about how lifestyle either catches up to us eventually and we pay the consequences for that lifestyle, or lifestyle propels us forward into productivity and prosperity in terms of health and wellness and ongoing vibrancy or the lack thereof. Paying the consequences for lifestyle, yes, I got to see it with my parents, but it's not something I was unfamiliar with myself. It's why I left the hardcore bodybuilding world to begin with, because of feeling and experiencing the consequences of that lifestyle. So Dr. Campbell was setting an example, but why can't other people see that? Why is it just about the books and the articles and not about his living, breathing example and what that tells us? Why can't other people see the example of Dr. Campbell's lifestyle as evidenced by his day-to-day life, leading and living a whole food, plant-based lifestyle without animal fats and animal protein sources? Myself, as soon as we started exchanging emails, I was marveling at his example, and it reinforced to me how I want to live until I die. I want to live right up until I die. And we should put that quote right across the screen and have it imprinted in your minds, and hopefully you will feel the same way. And I know from doing my own research now that lifestyle has a lot to do with how that is going to play out, whether I get to live until I die or not. I see it all around me merely because I pay attention to what is all around me, and I always have. And more reflection, I live in a gated community of mostly retirees. I'm likely the youngest person in the whole community. And I see many of them struggling with weight, with health problems like diabetes, heart issues, cardiac issues, and all other modern diseases of affluence, so representative of unhealthy lifestyle choices that eventually have caught up to them, and they are living lives of increasing limitations, and they're a good 20 years younger than Dr. Campbell is right now. In my personal life, I also know of people in their 50s and 60s and other people who write me even in their 40s who are limited and severely debilitated because of the consequences of their lifestyle choices, mostly of diet lifestyle choices. So as I talked with Dr. Campbell, he revealed to me also, if you heard the interview, he takes no medications and ingests no supplements either, which is something I have also been preaching for years. So it was great to hear from someone with 60 plus years experience studying biochemistry that he also doesn't believe in supplements and doesn't take them. And this is just another testament that proves prevention is more effective than treatment, or as Ben Franklin put it, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Dr. Campbell's real life example of the benefits of the whole food plant-based lifestyle is right there for anyone to see if we look at the surface and even below the surface. His example reminds me also of Dr. Ellsworth Wareham, who I've talked about before. Dr. Wareham also lived whole food plant-based lifestyle, and he also got to live until he died. Dr. Wareham worked, he was a cardiac surgeon, worked until age 74, and then continued working not in surgery but in his field up until age 94. And he lived to be over a century years old, 104 I think. So in an effort to illustrate juxtaposition and a hint of sarcasm during my interview with Dr. Campbell, I asked Dr. Campbell if he could then recommend for me to interview another expert in the field of nutrition, research, and biochemistry who was also an octogenarian, but instead of someone like Dr. Campbell, if he could recommend someone who's also a healthy octogenarian who's representative of a keto lifestyle. And I believe his answer to me was, they are all dead. I believe he said. I was deliberately being sarcastic for the sake of my audience, because audiences and consumers in the field of nutrition are far too caught up in short-sightedness and shiny new objects, keto diet and all the rest of the nonsense out there. People are focused more on the weight effects than they are on long-term health, and very few are looking at long-term realities that are the consequences of short-term trends. And most consumers of information in the fitness and diet industry suffer the worst kind of paradigm blindness. They're happy to hear and ingest good news about their bad habits and twist logic to make it real and rationalize all information and tell themselves that it's all sustainable, or that their unhealthy and unwise choices are not doing any damage or causing any harm. But as the years go by, we see evidence of quite the opposite. So Dr. Campbell and I also agreed that the research is pretty damn clear that meat eating is obesogenic, carcinogenic, atherogenic, diabetogenic, and the more animal flesh and animal products, including eggs, that someone consumes, the higher the risk becomes for these otherwise preventable ailments. On the flip side of this equation, though, and I want people to pay attention to this, if carbs are as bad for us as consumers are led to believe, then why isn't Dr. Campbell suffering a litany of health problems of his own, since his whole food plant-based diet is almost entirely carb-based, and here he is at 84 still writing books, and no weight issues, no health issues, no supplements. Dr. Wareham, same thing, lives to be over 100 years old on a mostly carb-based diet. So if carbs were bad for us, then we should not be seeing these two living examples. So we have to start looking at the surface and below the surface. And Dr. Campbell isn't suffering any ill effects. As a matter of fact, he's productive and prosperous and vibrant based on a whole food, plant-based, carb-based diet. So the fact is, we see the evidence of lifestyle choices and consequences all around us, and most of us just choose not to learn from any of the evidence. We will choose convenience and excessive indulgence over wise choices and sacrifice almost always. So people would rather hear about the shiny new objects than to hear about lack of convenience and maybe some sacrifice, and that you just can't be excessively indulgent and expect that there won't be consequences for that. I don't want to be a person dispensing good news about bad habits to any of my followers, but I can only provide the information and the examples. And the fact is, there are no living examples of low-carb, meat-eating, diet lifestyle experts living into their 80s and 90s in ketosis and serving as examples for the rest of us of how to live until you die. And that's the important thing. Live until you die. Listen, all kinds of medications now exist that can prolong life. Saw it with my own parents, see it with a lot of people I deal with, and see it when I go visit my mother. But is living longer the goal? Shouldn't living longer be about having more life during those extended years as well? So the amount of life in your years, not just the years in your life. Surviving is not the same thing as thriving, is it? And if you live infirmed and debilitated, sick and in pain, then it's going to be difficult for you to think about and follow through with being productive and prosperous and contributing and enjoying life and just being and living. You can't do any of that if you're constantly sick, debilitated, limited, and in pain. Living infirmed and debilitated and sick and in pain and fighting one medical issue after another, well, that isn't how you live until you die. That's just dying slowly. And the people in their 40s that are following me, it's not too late. And the people in the Platinum Club, in the 50s and 60s, you need to heed the message. So in my book, Physique After 50 and the Aging Proposition, I talk about the inevitable realities of aging and what we can do and not do about it. And make no mistake, living longer and living better are not the same things. It's not just the number of years in your life, it's the amount of life in your years. And I keep seeing the consequences and results of people who are more focused on eating a certain way because of the cosmetic effects of weight loss or whatever than they are about fueling an ability to live until you die and long life. So living youthfully, something I talk about in my book, The Aging Proposition, living youthfully is not the same as trying to recapture youth or fight the aging process. Now, I've been in the physique transformation and weight loss industry for 4+ decades now, and I can tell you from experience that if weight loss and weight control and physique transformation do not come with long-term added health and well-being benefits along with those weight changes, then more is lost than is accomplished, and whatever short-term glorified weight loss or physique transformation victory is celebrated, it will not be sustainable. And there will always be consequences and ramifications of trading short-term physical change for long-term well-being. And it may not show up today, it may not show up next year, it may not show up 5 years from now, but it will show up. And it's the old win the battle but lose the war metaphor playing itself out. And I've seen it play out over and over and over again, year after year, decade after decade. So you can talk health, but you also need to be living about health and knowing that lifestyle and diet have a lot to do with the quality of your life in your later years. As we age, the price you pay for that deal with the devil is even more dire and consequential. Our bodies are not as resilient as we age. We are seeing more and more of this even in the fitness industry now, with fitness representatives or icons dying and having long-term health issues because they're more concerned with the cosmetic appearance of their bodies than they were with the actual inner health and well-being that those fit bodies were supposed to be representing in the first place. Now, going back to remembering my father, in his final years, simple medical advice he was given was to try to walk around the block every day. And for the last several years of his life, he couldn't even do that. So my question is, do you want to live longer, or do you want to truly be living as you live longer? Myself, I truly want to live until I die. And I keep saying that because I hope it's a mantra that you can embrace and understand and memorize, because it's simple. Live until you die. I don't want to wither away and just be surviving and suffering and dying slowly. The whole food, plant-based diet combined with an intelligent fitness approach like in Physique After 50 has led to me to experience the most vibrant years that I can remember. A few webinars back, I published the results of my lab test, my blood test, showing what the vegan diet was doing for me in terms of all the health markers. And these are the most vibrant years that I can remember. Certainly way more healthy than when I was in the bodybuilding world with six-pack abs for a decade or so. So Dr. Campbell also shows us the example of true integrity that I don't think people fully grasp and understand. Beneath all his research and trailblazing as nutritional research pioneer, Dr. Campbell's personal example of true integrity often goes unnoticed. Integrity is a big thing for me, and I love seeing examples of it wherever I can. It fuels me, it invigorates me, it inspires me. Dr. Campbell was brave enough to follow where the honest research took him. He adopted a lifestyle based on and informed by the objective truths and conclusions to the research. That is really being in integrity, a person of integrity. He had every reason to be biased in his research and look for so-called alternative facts to reinforce his upbringing, but he did not. Dr. Campbell grew up on a dairy farm, and he shared with us in our discussion that he has fond memories of that experience. But the research that he conducted illuminated something else about consuming meat and dairy, and Dr. Campbell had the integrity to change and adopt his lifestyle to the conclusion of where the honest and objective research took him. He wasn't trying to find an angle. He was trying to find the truth, and that is sorely lacking in our modern world. We should all be so endowed with that kind of integrity to act and adapt and live in an observable truth rather than trying to deny it if that truth doesn't suit our own desired self-indulgent agenda or our current belief systems. If you want to believe eating meat and eating bacon is good for you, then you can certainly find websites that will promote that, but it isn't an honest, observable truth based on actual research science. And here Dr. Campbell is finishing yet another book at age 84, which I can't wait to read. And he's still writing. He's still commenting on nutritional research, vogue, trends, and deceptions. We talked about some of that in our interview as well, about the deception about lectins, etc., and his brilliant article that debunked all that nonsense. And Dr. Campbell is a living, breathing example of the Vulcan expression, live long and prosper. Thank goodness for Star Trek, and we'll put Mr. Spock up there. But you know what? I would like to be just like Dr. Campbell when I grow up. Still working, still contributing, still leading a life of informed integrity, and still hopefully leading by example and not being a person that is do as I say, not as I do, but do as I do based upon what I say. Dr. T Colin Campbell, what an amazing man and an amazing example he sets for all of us. You know, Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. What Dr. Campbell reminds me of is something similar. Be the example you want to see in the world. A person of integrity, long life, prosperity, all these things. So I hope that all of you learn something from this and that you will all aim to live until you die and live long and prosper. You don't have to leave it to a roll of the dice and hope for the best on how you will age. You get to choose. And as character Andy Dufresne said in the movie Shawshank Redemption, one of my favorite movie quotes of all time, get busy living or get busy dying. And if you are over 50, you have some decisions to make and some choices as well. So if you really want to live long and prosper, you need to think about certain diet modifications and lifestyle. If you really want to live until you die and have those longer years be ones of vibrancy and living, then breaking vegan and adopting a whole food plant-based diet is just about the smartest thing you can do to accomplish those ends. And again, I got all that just out of rethinking about my interview with Dr. Campbell and inspired by it and wanted to share that with you. And again, some of you will get it, some of you will not. And if you missed it, you can listen to my discussion with Dr. Campbell here. We'll put this up on the screen for you on YouTube. Watch it on my YouTube channel. And again, everything in our life can be a vehicle for our transformation if we use it. But you have to pay attention and you have to learn. And Dr. Campbell provides a great example of applying. It's not about the knowledge you have, it's about applying the knowledge you have. And what we see there is a person living his truth and living the truth based upon what the observable research taught him and showed him. Age 84, completing another book. And I think that is just sensational given what I know about other people as they age. Lots of my friends who work in aged care, and when I go visit my mom and I see the consequences of lifestyle. So lifestyle can have rewarding consequences and results, or it can have devastating consequences and results. So hopefully you learned something from this, you benefit from this. I was happy to bring it to you, and I will always remember fondly my interview with Dr. T Colin Campbell, author of those books you see behind me, and especially the groundbreaking China study which changed the way nutrition research is done for anything that came after that. So shout out to Dr. Campbell, and hopefully you're inspired by this and you will aim to live until you die. Live long and prosper.